there are now even more revelations that Donald Trump has groped and kissed women without their consent. Now, I want to go back to the tapes for one quick second to remind you what he bragged about back in 2005.
I gotta use some Tic Tacs just in case I start kissing her.
Yeah, okay, then he went on to say this.
You know, I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. You just kiss. I don't even wait.
Billy Bush's cackling in the background is the most unbearable part. But anyway, so he says, I just kissed them. I don't ask for permission. Well, you're about to find out that, yes, that's exactly what he did. He did it often. It wasn't words, it was action. But before I even go to that, I do want to run one other tape for you that I had not seen before and that it came out today. It's an old tape from when he was on Howard Stern with his daughter. And they asked him about him being a sexual predator. Interesting answer. Let's watch.
Donald, seriously, you know about sexual predators and things like that. I mean,
you are one.
All right, I was going to say that, but it's true.
Robin says you are one, and he goes, it's true, indeed, as you're about to find out. But it's no laughing matter in this case because it's real. 3 women came out today, all unrelated. Mindy McGilvray, and then Natasha Stoynoff, who's a reporter for People magazine, or was. Lisa Boyne. They've all come out. Now, let me tell you about Mindy first. She's down in Palm Beach, and she was working with a photographer at one of Trump's estates when apparently Trump grabbed her ass. She explains, all of a sudden I felt a grab, a little nudge. I think it's Ken's camera bag. That was my first instinct. I turned around, and there's Donald. He sort of looked away quickly. I quickly turned back, facing Ray Charles, and I'm stunned. So there's many celebrities there, including Ray Charles. She loves Ray Charles, that's why she went. And Donald Trump's just standing next to her, and he grabs her ass. That was not the only interaction they had. He apparently flirted with her in another instance. She explains that as well. She was walking out of a restroom, according to the Palm Beach Post, and, quote, Donald caught me right before I headed downstairs. He goes, it's a cool evening, isn't it? She said, mocking his voice. He had this debonair tone. He was totally flirting, she said. And then here comes Melania to save the day. She sees me. She had this shawl on because it was cold on New Year's Eve. And she whips the shawl behind her neck and storms off into the bathroom. I made a quick pivot and went straight downstairs, and he went after her. So you're going to see a similar pattern here from the People magazine reporter, where he does it brazenly with his wife right there. And this is all around the same time that he was saying that stuff on the Access Hollywood bus back in 2005. So in this case, this one was 13 years ago, okay? And so there he just grabs her without her consent. Now let's go to Natasha Stoynoff's story. That's the People writer. She says that she went to do a report on his one-year anniversary to his wife, Melania. They had been married, and she's pregnant at the time. And you know, People magazine, they're going to do a soft little piece on this. And she says she's covered many celebrities. At that point, she had covered Donald Trump many times and had a really good and friendly and professional relationship with him. But she said this time was different. When Melania went upstairs to go put on another outfit, she picks up the story there. She said, Donald wanted to show me around the mansion. He said, there was one tremendous room in particular, he said, that I just had to see. Boy, does that sound like Donald Trump. Okay. And then she explains, we walked into that room alone, and Trump shut the door behind us. I turned around, and within seconds, he was pushing me against the wall and forcing his tongue down my throat. Remember what he said on the bus? And again, right around the same time period. I just kissed him. I don't ask. Natasha said that she felt obviously shaken by this. She didn't know how to react. And then luckily the butler came in. The guy's got a butler. Anyway, the butler comes in and says, oh, Melania's coming back. You guys might want to sit down for the interview. I don't know if he knows, like, hey, at some point you got to tip off Donald when his wife is coming back. So they go back in and they're about to sit down. Melania hasn't quite come in yet. And at that point, Natasha says she's shaken and says, how could the actions of one man make me feel so utterly violated? I'd been interviewing A-list celebrities for over 20 years, but what he'd done was a first. So, you know how he says, hey, if you're a star, you can just get away with it. No, not all stars do this. This knucklehead thought, well, I get to do whatever I want. And it is unprecedented. It's not normal. And then he apparently leans in and he says, you know, we're going to have an affair, don't you? He declared, in the same confident tone he uses when he says he's going to make America great again. He says, have you ever been to Peter Luger's for steaks? I'll take you. We're going to have an affair, I'm telling you. What did he do when he said on that bus he was trying to seduce Nancy O'Dell? Oh, I went and took her furniture shopping. This is his only move. Try to impress them with your money and then attack them without asking and without consent. And I want to give you some of what Natasha felt afterwards, because if you're not familiar with the reactions people have in unusual circumstances like this, I want you to know. She said, an hour later, I was back at my hotel. My shock began to wear off and was replaced by anger. I kept thinking, why didn't I slug him? Why couldn't I say anything? People start to blame themselves. And here's a powerful guy who does this to you, and you don't know how to react. Would you know how to react? You would have been so surprised, right? And then she admitted, honestly, later that I was afraid that a famous, powerful, wealthy man could and would discredit and destroy me, especially if I got this coveted people feature killed. See, that's how they use their power and their access to do the things that they want to do. And I say they, but really, it's just a couple of guys like Bill Cosby and Donald Trump and Roger Ailes. Not everybody does this, as she explained. Almost no one else does it. So, and she's writing the cover piece for People, and People thinks that's a big deal. We got this exclusive with Donald Trump and his wife, and people are going to buy our magazine. If she kills that piece because she complains, it's going to hurt her career. Donald Trump knows that. He uses his power to abuse these people. Imagine if he had a lot more power. Okay, now, when she said Natasha saw that the tapes came out, she had an interesting reaction. She says she wasn't shocked. She says, quote, I was relieved. I finally understood for sure that I was not to blame for his inappropriate behavior. I had not been singled out. As he explained to Billy Bush, it was his usual MO with women. I felt deep regret for not speaking out at the time. A lot of victims feel this way. You've got to know it. You know, it's easy to say, why didn't they do something? But when they're shell-shocked and they don't know what to do, and there's this mismatch in the power dynamic, oftentimes they blame themselves. She was thinking, it wasn't me the whole time, until she sees him say it on the tape. She goes, oh my God, that's what this guy always does. Of course it wasn't me, it was him. I didn't ask for anything, he attacked me in that room. She never had anything like that happen to her before. Okay, finally she says, talk is talk, but it wasn't just talk in my case, it was very much action. And just for the record, Mr. Trump, I did not consent. Now, one more case for you guys, Lisa Boyne. In her case, Trump didn't do anything to her, but he did to the models that they went out with. So she was a business person at the time. They picked her up, and they had picked up other models. And then they went to a restaurant, and she explains what happened. First, when they pick her up, she says he was constantly talking about himself, who he was dating, who he was sleeping with, who he was trying to sleep with. I just remember feeling very surprised and upset. You know Donald Trump. That's the most true thing I've ever heard about Donald Trump. And at that point, he just was getting divorced, or had gotten divorced from Marla Maples, and there were rumors that Marla Maples had cheated on him with one of the bodyguards. So he's on a warpath here, it appears. It doesn't, but the speculation doesn't matter, the actions matter. So let's go to what he actually did. According to Boyne, the group was seated at a semicircular table when they got to the restaurant, with the women in the middle and Trump and Casablancas, another rich guy they were hanging out with, flanking either end. The women couldn't get out of their seats without one of the men getting up, which they refused to do. Instead, Boyne said, Trump insisted that the women walk across the table, allowing him to peer up their skirts while they did so. Trump, quote, stuck his head right underneath their skirts, Boyne said, and commented on whether they were wearing underwear and what their genitalia looked like. It's disturbing, his use of women, etc. There's almost a Will Ferrell-like quality to it. I don't want to, when he's in old school and he's wondering about what their underwear looks like. But in that case, it's innocent and it's a movie. In this case, it's real, and he's actually doing it to other human beings. Now, Boyne says, I'm not a model. He wasn't interested in me. He was more interested in my opinion of who I think he should sleep with. I remember that vividly. Now, the Sonia Morgan, who she was with, says, yes, we were at that dinner together. Yes, I remember dancing on the tables. No, I don't remember Donald Trump looking under anybody's skirt or saying things like that. So you could take that for what it's worth. Maybe she just didn't hear it, or maybe, those are two contradictory accounts, and I'm sure the Trump supporters will side with Morgan and not with Boyne, who's telling the story. But she says it was the most offensive scene I've ever been a part of. I wanted to get the heck out of there, and she did. She made an excuse and left. Okay, now, finally, I want to get back to the People reporter here, because Trump doesn't have any evidence to the contrary. Now, I understand it'd be tough to try to find out how to prove that this stuff didn't happen many years later. I get that, right? But how is he going to try to discredit the reporter? Listen to what he says during a rally.
Think of it. She's doing a story on Melania, who's pregnant at the time, and Donald Trump, our one-year anniversary. And she said, I made inappropriate advances. And by the way, the area was a public area, people all over the place. Take a look. You take a look. Look at her words. You tell me what you think. I don't think so. I don't think so.
Oh, he can't help himself. You see what he did there? Look at her. I don't think so. He added look at her words so he could be like, whoa, what do you mean? What do you mean? You know what you're saying. This is the same thing he did with Ted Cruz's wife. Like, who would want to spill the beans? Look at her. Same thing he did with Carly Fiorina. It's a pattern. When are you going to get it through your head? This is what he does. All he does is judge women on their looks. In fact, Elise Jordan was on MSNBC. She's a Republican woman. She supported Rand Paul earlier, but she's also pissed about it. Listen what she said.
That's the most disgusting thing I've ever heard. He just said she wasn't even attractive enough for him to sexually assault or harass her. That is the premise from which the guy is operating. That is his moral authority. It all comes down to how he views women.
If you're in the camp of, 50 women against Bill Cosby, I don't know, the jury's still out. Dozens of women against Roger Ailes, I don't know. Same exact fact pattern in every case with Cosby and Ailes, I don't know, the jury's out. Now we have about a dozen women saying the same exact fact pattern on how Donald Trump does what he said he does. I grab them right away. I kiss them right away. I don't ask. I'm a star. I get away with it. And here are all these women telling the same exact story of how he did it to them or others that they witnessed. If you still don't want to believe, that's because you don't want to see any evil, you don't want to hear any evil, you don't want to talk about any evil. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist. This is the reality of who Donald Trump is. Live with it. Young Turks. Together we can change the media, make it more representative of you and not the powerful. Come join us, make a difference. tytnetwork.com/join.